Well, it's Iowa. It's Iowa, it's Iowa, it's Iowa. No malarkey.
That was Joe Biden campaigning in, you guessed it, Iowa, August 12th, 2007. We're returning to Iowa and the 2008 Democratic presidential primary because we're just a year away from the first votes in the 2024 presidential primary. That's when, presumably for Democrats, it won't be Iowa, Iowa, Iowa. It will be South Carolina, South Carolina, South Carolina going first. That is, if President Biden gets his way. It would be a significant change in the Democratic Party's nomination calendar, a change being pushed by President Biden. A year before that happens, though, in this episode of C-SPAN's The Weekly, we remember what presidential candidate Joe Biden used to say about the early state of Iowa and of New Hampshire with no malarkey. Back to August 12, 2007. Joe Biden is talking to an attendee at a town hall meeting with Madison County Democrats in Winterset, Iowa.
The idea that people are saying you need $100 million to compete in a primary process is obscene when you think about it. I mean, what's happened to us? And the only thing that gives folks like me an opportunity to compete with our ideas is here in Iowa. I mean, there isn't any other place but New Hampshire. You can on a Sunday morning come and have 30, 40 people sitting here and or whatever, asking you questions. It is. It truly is unique. No, it really is. And by the way, all this effort to sort of diminish your influence, it will be a disaster, not for the Democratic Party, but for electoral politics if that happens.
Joe Biden talked money again while campaigning in Johnson County, Iowa, May 27, 2007.
Well, I think Iowa is going to determine who the next president is. If all of us are running, we're going to have to exceed expectations here. Expectations for us are all different. So that I think that for me, I'm out here to win Iowa, to win the Iowa caucus. And I think if I do well here in Iowa, I think that means that puts me on the road to being the nominee. Conversely, the so-called front runners, the ones with the tens of millions of dollars, if they don't do well here, I think it doesn't portend well. So Iowa's a big deal.
Note that in May 2007, Joe Biden said Iowa will determine who the next president is. He was right, but it wasn't him, at least not that year. He talked about the influence of big money again at a November 27, 2007 town hall meeting in Waverly, Iowa.
The good news is you're probably the only state, I'm not being facetious, where the money doesn't matter very much. And the reason it doesn't matter is you all want to touch us, feel us, kick the tires, open up the hood, take a look. And the least important, the least useful advertising here is paid advertising.
Later in 2007, Joe Biden participated in a debate hosted by the Des Moines Register.
Iowa deserves to be first. And the reason they do is because they take it so seriously. I've never met a group of people, whether in Maquoketa or Shenandoah or up in the north, wherever you are, people take it seriously. And you always treat us with respect. I've never walked out of a place without someone, even if not for me, saying, "Thank you for coming, Senator. You deserve to be first, and without you, this democracy's in trouble because it would all go to money."
After Joe Biden, the next person speaking at that December 13th, 2007 debate in Johnston, Iowa was Barack Obama.
Well, I think that the Iowa caucuses give people a chance to lift the hood and kick the tires and take us out for a test drive. But, what I've been struck by is just the core decency of the American people. I think their instincts are good. And sometimes they don't get the information they need. But when they're presented with good choices, they make the right decision. There's a generosity of spirit there that I think the next president can tap. And I'm looking forward to doing well in the caucuses and looking forward to leading this country.
In fact, Barack Obama didn't just do well in Iowa, he won Iowa, a huge victory, propelling him on his way to, as he said in that debate, leading this country. Here's his January 3rd, 2008 victory speech in Des Moines.
Thank you. 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 Thank you, Iowa.
You know, they said this day would never come. They said our sights were set too high. They said this country was too divided, too disillusioned to ever come together around a common purpose. But on this January night, at this defining moment in history, you have done what the cynics said we couldn't do.
Meantime, as for Joe Biden in Iowa, he came in fifth. Here's the report on KCCI TV in Des Moines that same night.
There have been a couple of casualties in this race, as we have told you. First of all, the latest news is that Joe Biden is dropping out of the race. Joe Biden is dropping out of the race for president.
Now let's do New Hampshire. As you just heard, Joe Biden dropped out before New Hampshire voted in the 2008 primary, but he did campaign there. Like on June 30th, 2006, at the Politics and Eggs breakfast just outside Manchester.
I want to say straight up front, I like the New Hampshire primary being where it is for a simple reason. I think I can win here. I don't have any real esoteric reason for it all, but it's real basic.
When Joe Biden campaigned in Heinecker, New Hampshire, October 6, 2007, he mentioned money, just like he did in Iowa.
I want you to focus on one thing that I think is sometimes missed by people outside of New Hampshire and outside of Iowa. And that is, as long as Iowa and New Hampshire play an incredibly prominent role in the choice of our candidates for President of the United States of America, it means that the nomination is not for sale. It means that the nomination is available for the competition of ideas. It means that it doesn't go to the person who has the most money.
That was the 2008 Democratic presidential primary when Joe Biden was running as a senator. Of course, he ran again in the 2020 campaign as a former vice president. Here he is, January 4th, 2020, in Vinton, Iowa.
But look, one of the things that you all do here in Iowa that they don't do, by the way, you've all figured out that the rest of the country kind of envies you and crazy about y'all because you have the first caucus and they're not any more happy about New Hampshire, which has the first primary, because they say, well, you don't represent the country because you're not as diverse as the rest of many other states are, and so on and so forth. Let me tell you what I tell them. I tell them as I go around the country that the one thing about you all is you take your job really seriously. You are one of the few states that, in fact, thinks about not just what I want for my state, what I'm going to be determining who gets to go through the next gate, who gets to possibly be the President of the United States, because you're going to eliminate people in this process. And you think about what is needed for the whole country. And it's unusual. You think about beyond yourself. You take it really seriously.
And here's Joe Biden again, January 24th, 2020, in Claremont, New Hampshire.
Folks, you all do have a big responsibility. There's a lot of states in both primaries that are envious that you get to be the first primary, but you always take it really seriously, deciding on not only who's best for your state, but whether or not that person could go on and win the general election.
Joe Biden finished fifth in the New Hampshire Democratic primary in 2020, just like he finished fifth in the Iowa caucuses in 2008. But this time, he didn't drop out of the race. He stayed in and went next to South Carolina, where he won big, with nearly half the vote.
Thank you, South Carolina!
Which leads to current time, the conclusion of the story, and this episode's bonus clip. President Biden now wants South Carolina to go first. Let's hear from Jamie Harrison. He's chairman of the Democratic National Committee. He used to head the South Carolina Democratic Party. Here's what he told the DNC on December 2nd, 2022.
I actually did not find out that President Biden was recommending South Carolina to be the first in the nation until last evening at the state dinner. I didn't have my phone. I just bought a new iPhone. And so my wife likes the camera on this iPhone. And so she had my phone all evening long. And when I was getting calls from staff, she was not answering them because she said I didn't need my phone because we were at the state dinner. And finally, Jen O'Malley Dillon, the president, my friend and my colleague, found me in the room. I was stuffing my mouth with a shrimp. And she said, "Have you heard?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "The president is recommending South Carolina to be first in the South."
That's it for this episode of C-SPAN's The Weekly. A reminder, you can do your own searches in the C-SPAN video library. Find more videos of Joe Biden running for president in Iowa and New Hampshire during the 2020 campaign, the 2008 campaign, even the 1988 campaign. Just go to cspan.org and use the search bar on top. All for free. Thanks for listening, and happy searching.